Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I am delighted to be joined by James Kearney. How goes it, James?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Feeling better that I've finished watching back that game again. That was a dark hour and a half of my life that I'm not going to get back, but thankfully it's over now.
It was an afternoon evening that was dark and never going to get it back again. But these things happen, and hopefully it is not a common occurrence this season. But here we are. We'll talk about and be positive about the good times. So on the flip side, we need to dig into the weeds and look at the negative side of it as well, which is Heart of Midlothian's 3-1 defeat to Dundee at Dens Park on Saturday evening. So you did the analysis for this. I was up at Dens Park and was my mate was saying he was watching it on TV. He was like, at least I could just turn it off after 45 minutes. And then he was just like, oh, but you were up there. I was like, yes. Also, I can't leave early like fans can to go to the pub. So just suffer through it all. But here we are. What was the big thing that stood out for you in the game? Actually, before we get into what you viewed it as, what did you make of, and this was a big talking point, what did you make of Steven Naismith's decision to move away from the back four against Rangers and his decision to go with a kind of 3-5-2 on Saturday before like a ball had been kicked? What was your thoughts?
I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, just because I thought Hearts had played really well against Rangers the previous week with the back four. And I thought that we've seen that a fair bit during pre-season as well. I thought that's kind of maybe going to be the primary formation, I suppose, that kind of 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, and then maybe switching to the back three for maybe things like away games in Europe, trips to Parkhead, Ibrox, that kind of thing. I wouldn't quite put Dens Park in the same kind of category as those kind of games. But maybe we should be doing it because, Hearts were not good on Saturday night. So I was a little bit surprised by the change. I didn't think that the change in shape itself, when you look at it, you don't go, oh, right, okay, that means, that's why the team lost. I think there's a whole bunch of reasons why they lost, which we'll get into. I don't think the back three's like an inherently negative thing or an inherently defensive thing. Depends how you play within that system. But it's certainly a bit of a surprise. Tony Docherty seemed to be saying the same after the game, right?
Yeah. So I've just been writing just now, just looking at because I know it's a big talk about, so kind of just looking at it looking at kind of last season as well, and how often played the back three, certainly in the league, and how it compared to the back four. And yeah, because I asked Naismith about the change after the game, and asked Tony Docherty about whether he was surprised by it and did he kind of see it coming, because he had changed to a back four. But I think that was maybe to do with the fact that Dundee played so well in the back when they changed it to back four against Dundee United in the Dundee derby in the first weekend of the season. But I actually wrote in my predicted lineups, which I kind of half got right. Didn't get the exact lineup right, of course, but I kind of laid out the reason why Naismith might switch to a back three, not knowing that he would. I just looked at it and thought maybe Dundee would go with a front two, their usual, because that's what they've been playing mostly under Tony Docherty going to last season. They would play their usual front two, which includes Simon Murray, who's caused Hearts defence issues in the past, especially when it's the back four. You add in potentially Curtis Main. So I just thought, you're going away to a team who are quite dynamic in midfield, who can be direct, who can get up and support their forwards. Their forwards are quite mobile and physical, and you just think, right, just the added extra defender, kind of just having us kind of spare man at the back is a sensible move. What surprised me was two things: that Dundee went with a back four, and then the fact that it took Naismith until half time to change it within it, because as we'll come on to discuss, the first half was, I think it was poor, and then it went from poor to being a disaster because of those final few minutes of the first half. And I just thought he could have changed it without making a substitution. I thought there was elements you could have easily pushed. For example, Gerald Taylor further forward and played them high and wide, and then moved Mackay out left and just had the front two, and then you've got Oyugoki playing as a right back. But that didn't happen. It wasn't until half time he made a triple change and also changed formation. But you dug into it and looked at what went wrong. Do you agree that Naismith could have changed it earlier? And what were the things that probably concerned you or stood out for you the most?
So yeah, I think there probably is something in that. He probably could have changed it a little bit earlier. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it would involve, you'd have to probably end up playing Gerald Taylor at something like right wing. But he's kind of playing there anyway to an extent. When you look at his average position, like I think only Shankland and Vargas were further up the park than him. So yeah, you could maybe get away with that without having to turn to the bench. I actually thought the first half was kind of fine. I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't brilliant by any stretch of the imagination, but it was quite a stop-start game. Both teams looked as if they were trying to hit each other on the counter. Hearts did have a couple of chances on the counter as well. And I think that's where Dundee are at their most vulnerable. I think that when you can catch them in transition, if you hit them quickly. I mean, we saw that chance fairly early on when Vargas nicks the ball off of, I think it was McCowan, near the halfway line, charges up, has a shot from outside the box, drags it a wee bit wide, but it's a decent enough chance. And there's another point as well, not long after that, when it was Cammy Devlin and Shankland were kind of quite far up, and it looks as if Devlin, I'm not quite sure what happened there actually.
He tried to dummy it. Naismith went mental.
Yeah, I mean, it did look as if I'll just take a touch, it's 2v2 here, there's a bit of space to run into.
Having just on that, because there was an audible. I don't think I'm just because of parental guidance. I won't swear on this, but there was an audible swear word followed by off as he turned around when it broke down as Devlin tried to dummy it.
I mean, Naismith does love shouting at Devlin, though. It's one of his favourite things to do.
Yeah,
let's be honest. So yeah, I mean, there were a couple of kind of half chances early on, but again, I think there were also alarm bells ringing as well, particularly as the half wore on. All three goals are. I mean, where do you start with them? The first one you've got. I mean, it's a terrible kick from Clark to begin with. I can only assume that he's trying to get some height on it and scuffs it, because I don't know what on earth he's playing at otherwise. And then defending, I think Oyugoki was maybe a wee bit hesitant. Clark's very soft to get beaten in that near post. When you look at the screenshot of him, the moment Tiffany hits the shot, I mean, Clark's standing on the post. I don't really understand how it's managed to wriggle its way in.
He's so I don't know if he just didn't see it at all, but I need to watch it in greater depth. But he's so slow to react, so slow. Which, because you can, there's obviously two mistakes. Well, there's a few mistakes within that goal. He can the kick out, fine, he scuffs it. That happens. Craig Gordon's done that stuff before. Goalkeepers do that, especially with on the weaker foot. The reaction to it is really poor. You noted that at one point Scott Tiffany, when he enters the box, to be fair, Tiffany's only got one thing in his mind, is cutting in and shooting, but he could have laid it off in Lyle Cameron's bombing in on the edge of the box. Yeah,
I think there's an argument to be made. He probably I know the goal went in, but I think he took the wrong decision. I think he should have laid it off. But Tiffany's a player I've seen a lot. Obviously, he's had a couple of years at Partick Thistle. I can't lie, I'm a very big fan of him. He's a tricky winger. Gets involved in goals and assists. But I mean, the one thing that he's absolutely brilliant at is his dribbling ability. He's really good with the ball at his feet in these 1v1 situations. And I think Gerald Taylor certainly found that out the hard way.
And Oyugoki as well.
Yeah, exactly. And even Kent to an extent as well, because it's definitely the cut in, and then Kent obviously gave away the penalty. So yeah, I think Tiffany was a real menace throughout the entire game. Taylor didn't handle him well at all, I think it's fair to say. I can't remember seeing a player go from such a great performance to such a poor performance in the space of a week before. It was remarkable. I've not really seen anything like that before. So yeah, I think there were kind of a couple of players that maybe had off days that didn't quite go to plan. But I think one of the big problems with the back three was that when Hearts were trying to play out from the back, obviously you've got the three centre halves kind of sitting very deep, with the wing backs pushing on a bit. But basically, with the way that Dundee pressed, Hearts basically didn't have anywhere to go. Because like Simon Murray would kind of float around, but he didn't actually press all that much. He'd just kind of wait around and just make sure that no one's passing it back the way, back to the goalie or back to the deep line defender. But then that next bank of four in the Dundee midfield, so you had Tiffany on the left, the guy with a double barrel name on the right-hand side, his name I've forgotten now.
Palmer Holden, I think it's
That's the one, Palmer Holden. So you had those two, they were basically just kind of sticking on the wing backs, which is fair enough. And then you also had Cameron and McCowan in the middle, both pushing right up. And that was, I guess, it just kind of seemed to cut off all the passing lanes. So I mean, if Hearts is basically the only option really at that point is to go long. Otherwise, you can end up in a world of trouble very quickly. And that's not how Hearts play. Hearts are like to have the ball, keep it moving. So I think that when they were trying to build out from deep positions, that caused them a bit of a problem. When you got further forward into the midfield or into the final thirds, when Hearts have got lots of bodies forward, and there was just lots and lots of side to side passing, no real incision whatsoever. I think part of that's down to Dundee defended their flanks really well. I think they worked really hard and they were really well organised. But I guess it's moments like that where you're looking for your number 10 to really come into the game, get his foot in the ball, try and create something, try and do something. And, again, I've previously said I'd love to see Barry Mackay in that role, in that number 10 position, just behind the forwards, see how he gets on. Okay, I've seen it now, and I'm not a fan.
No, that's what I wanted to come on to, was ask you about the midfield three, because I'll bring in a couple of comments here. Sydney Devine says, happy Monday, lads. Well, not sure why Naismith thought a Grant, Devlin and a floating Mackay would work. He tried this against a robust Fleetwood midfield and it didn't work. Callum Loban was surprised Danda was the one dropped instead of someone like Mackay. Nothing seemed to go right in the first half. Was there any other midfield ones? Oh, there we go. Nacy needs to take responsibility for that change. We don't look comfortable in it. Only positive we can take is Boateng and Danda looked very good. HMFC Hub, to be honest, Naismith needs to take responsibility because it's not all because poor three mistakes. I wouldn't blame it on Nacy. We were dropping Nanda and possibly even Forrest and Mackay, who haven't delivered. So the midfield, and then Graham says, not sure what Mackay is offering just now. He has the number 10 shirt, but he's showing very little. In terms of the number 10 shirt, I don't think it's Barry Mackay wanted the number 10 shirt because Liam Boyce didn't want it, because Liam Boyce wanted to change his number. So I think the status of the number 10 shirt, I think just with the way numbers are now, it doesn't really hold fruit anymore. It's just to say essentially just the number. But yeah, the midfield three having worked really well in terms of Devlin and Grant, worked so well against Rangers. It really didn't work against Dundee, and kind of showed that with Naismith making two changes within the midfield in his 3 half-time changes, with Grant and Mackay going off. Mackay, I just see him. I think there is he definitely, I think no player in the Hearts squad splits opinion more than Barry Mackay. I think there's a wonderfully talented player in there, but I think he is a left-sided attacker. I just don't. You look at him, I think he's great at hanging, staying wide, collecting the ball, and then he can kind of look into the pitch, and then that's where he can dribble at defenders. He can combine with the left fullback. He can drive in field and look for that incisive pass in behind the defence. I just feel he gets crowded out in midfield when things don't, and then it kind of just snowballs, and you just don't notice him. And when he does receive the ball, there's less space in there. He can often receiving the ball with his back to goal. So then it just becomes redundant having him in there. Whereas I think Danda or Spittle are more comfortable playing as part of that midfield three as the attacking midfielder. And then I was surprised that Boateng didn't start. I thought he was coming in for games like this when they are playing front three. And then you look at what he is capable of sitting in the holding position, and that kind of stops some of the forward runs of McCowan and Cameron, but also gives Hart something in possession where he's actually really good at receiving the ball deep and then playing. So yeah, I thought the makeup of the midfield was just didn't suit.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you about Barry Mackay. I think you're right. I think he probably is best out in the wings where he's got a little bit more space to play in. I mean, he just didn't really make an impact at all on Saturday there. I mean, I think he completed 9 passes in the first half. He had 1 pass in the final third. 1.
Yeah, I was reading that. It was damning. And you were... And your analysis.
This is your playmaker. This is your number 10. I think that part of it, Silla man marked him really well. Silla had a great game. For Dundee, I thought he looked really impressive. He kind of sometimes he was like man marking Mackay, sometimes he'd drop almost into the defence and almost play like another centre half. But he was certainly a big part, I think, of why Hearts struggled so badly to get going. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, Mackay just found himself crowded out a fair bit. I mean, Gerald Taylor as well, when he was getting forward, he was constantly crowded out as well. I think Dundee were really good at that. They were kind of pressing in packs and forcing Hearts back the way. I mean, it was remarkable, particularly during that first half, just how few opportunities there were when Hearts even made it into the Dundee box. You know, I'm thinking there was that Penrice cross to the back post that was cleared pretty easily. There's another one short before half time from Penrice. There was one Taylor cross that was overhit. You know, it's like there's not much there in terms of this. I think that Hearts seem to get within maybe 30 yards of goal and just have literally nowhere to go. And at that point, that's where you need your technical players to step up and take a bit of responsibility and try and craft something. And it just didn't happen. So I think Mackay was anonymous, frankly. And I don't, as much as I love him, I don't think Cammy Devlin had a good game either. Again, struggled to get involved, struggled to get his foot in the ball, struggled to just kind of, be that and fulfill that kind of box to box role. I mean, so often it was just Grant sitting at the base of midfield and just having to circulate it out to either the wide centre backs or the wing backs because there was just nothing ahead of him. And so I think that. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a really difficult afternoon. And it was one of these games where you're crying out for a bit of creativity to your likes of Danda or Spittle or somebody like that. And to be fair, I think when Danda came on, he probably did help things improve. And I just think he's got that intelligence, Danda. He's much better at noticing these little gaps, these little spaces, and taking them up. And I think he's got a bit more license to kind of drift around the midfield and find them.
Yeah, I just think he's more switched on with that position in terms of where to be than Mackay is, because Mackay has spent so long playing on the left. And just wanted to bring in Graham's comment here. We're stifling Shankland playing in that deeper role. Need him back up top. Also, the game could change if Oda scored ahead of that. For me as a sitter, we'll come and speak briefly on kind of the changes and the players coming on. But I just wanted to get your take on Shankland, because I've had this discussion with fans before, or just with mates. I think Shankland's wasted when he's just up top. I think you want to get him involved as much as possible, and that's why you've seen he's done really well when as Vargas playing further forward and he's kind of dropping into 10, or it was when Ginelli was further forward and he's dropping into the 10, because Shankland is so good at linking play, he's so good at getting involved in the game and helping within the build-up. I think what stifles it is that when it's not working behind him, when it is like breaking down and there's not a balance, and how, like you talked about, how difficult it was for Hearts to build through, certainly in that first half, that he becomes anonymous. But I would say Shankland for me is best as basically kind of getting all jargony, but like a 9.5. I just don't want him competing with the centre backs all game, when you want him a wee bit deeper to get involved, then getting into the box and scoring goals like he's done all last season.
So, I mean, I'm going to completely sit on the fence here and just say that I can totally see both sides, because on the one hand, he's by a mile the best finisher in the team. Get him near the goal because you'll score lots of goals that way. On the other hand, he's also the best player in the team. And do you really want him just, prodding goals in, or do you want to actually get him involved in the build-up? I mean, so I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's the worst problem to have, to be honest. And I think it's great. But I mean, it kind of falls back on this problem that we talked about last season a lot, which was that Shankland's simultaneously the best goal scorer and the best kind of playmaker, creative player that Hearts have in the squad. Maybe that's changed now with the likes of Dan and Spittle coming in. We'll see how they get on. But I mean, I did think, though, for instance, the Rangers game last week, I thought the way that Shankland and Vargas linked up was absolutely superb. You know, I thought Shankland was brilliant in that role. Vargas, I think that's probably the closest we've seen to the kind of Shankland Ginelli type play that we saw during his first season. And I thought they were brilliant at it. You know, I mean, the only reason I didn't write about them for the kind of post-match analysis piece was because Gerald Taylor was just that good. I couldn't really ignore him. So I can definitely see it. And I think again, like the kind of the back three, back four thing, I suspect this will change a lot throughout the season, perhaps even on a game-by-game basis, depending on who else is fit, depending on what the other opposition are like. But yeah, I guess this is where you hope some like players like Danda and Spittle will step up, because if one of them can come into the first team, get a run of games, and prove that actually, you know, they are the best playmaker in the team, all of a sudden, yeah, that you know, the debate's over. Okay, great, get Shankland up top. That's all we need. They can still drop deep and get involved with the play and build up play like we're so good at. But I do think that I think that Shankland should be up front. Yeah, I think just number 9, scoring goals. You know, get chances into him because he will score them. And I think, you know, goals win games of football. So yeah, I think get him as a proper out and out number 9. But you do need other players throughout the squad to kind of step up to the plate and fill that creative burden, because as much as he likes to, he can't do it all himself. You know,
yes,
he does need a hand every now and again, and that's where the other players are going to have to, raise their game a wee bit, I suppose.
Yeah, I've like I said, I've been writing about the back 3, back 4 conundrum. I'll probably do a video later on this week, potentially with Scott, kind of talking around it. But I do think there is, Naismith likes to change, but there comes a point where you're probably, and he spoke about it last season, where certainly in the forward areas, you kind of need to give players a run, and so they build these relationships, because it's all well and good and having like Danda and Spittle and Mackay and like Vargas, load of Forrest, but if you're not giving them time to gel, it becomes difficult. But that's for another that's for another day. Briefly touch on the second half. I mean, second half was improved, but in relation to the game, it's hard not to get much worse. Changed to a back 4, and it was interesting that yes, Hearts won the second half, but like Kent said, it kind of basically said it after the game that he just felt they changed and they were kind of happy with. They knew they were 3-0 up. They were happy to play that way. Yes, Oda had 2 headers where one where it was a long throw and he kind of ducked out of it, and then the sitter near the end where he's got the header in the 6-yard box and he heads it weakly straight at McCracken. I actually thought got a wee bit of stick for this on Twitter, which maybe understandably so, but I thought he was quite bright when he came on at half time. He was running in behind. I think he was stretching the Dundee defence. He was being a bit of a threat, but when you get those chances, you really do need to take it. Again, the other 2 half-time subs, Boateng brought a bit of presence and sturdiness to the midfield, and Danda again impressed, where he's getting to the point where you're thinking he should be one of those you think starts most games, the kind of similar category to Frankie Kent and Lauren Shankland as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does. But then at the same time, I feel sorry for Spittle at the moment, because he's signed on the back of a tremendous season for Motherwell, but he's yet to play in the position he had most joy in for Motherwell. Yeah,
and I mean, I suspect that will change, though. I mean, like I said, I think from what we've seen during pre-season and the couple of games we've had so far, to me, Danda seems to be the obvious choice for that kind of number 10 role if you're going to play with a number 10. Obviously, Barry Mackay didn't do himself any favours at the weekend. Naismith might well give another go. Maybe it's just a bad day at the office, perhaps. Maybe. But yeah, I do wonder if Spittle might end up playing a wee bit deeper as a kind of centre mid a lot of the time, just because I think Danda's probably ahead of him in the pecking order just now, and rightly or wrongly, it looks as if Barry Mackay is as well in that position. So it's hard to say, but again, yeah, I do feel sorry for him, because I mean, how many is it? There's not about a dozen goals and about as many assists as well last season.
I think it was like 19 goals and assists in the league. I'm sure it was, but that's off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, that's for pretty average Motherwell team, you know.
The largely poor Motherwell team for a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I do feel a bit sorry for him. I think technically there's no doubt that he's an absolutely wonderful player. I just wonder if maybe he's not the quickest player. He's maybe not the best kind of like dribbler or ball carrier. And I wonder if that's maybe working against him at this point in time. Because I think if you're in a game where you're going to have lots and lots of the ball, Spittle's ideal. You know, he's absolutely brilliant. He's going to be brilliant at that. That's how you're going to get the most out of him, I would think. But yeah, it does seem to me that he's maybe just a wee bit down the pecking order at the moment. But I'd certainly like to see more of him, because we know he had, like you say, he had such a wonderful season last year. We know what he's capable of, and yet he's not really had much of a look in, even during pre-season, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's obviously played in different midfield roles, and I wonder if what happened at the Rangers game, where Danda kind of played off the right, but he wasn't out and out right winger. He kind of just played narrow. Wonder if that's potential for Spittle, because at the moment, not whether it's Oda or Vargas or Forrest, there's not really someone that's obvious like you're going to play right wing. So I wonder if that's a potential where whoever plays on the right is actually someone like Danda or Spittle, where they play quite narrow with Taylor bombing up and down the side, because like you said, the Hearts like to focus their attacks down the right, and that means getting the fullback forward quite a bit. We've seen it was under Nielsen, where we ended up playing Prince Boabin as a right midfielder, but he kind of tucked in and allowed Callum Patterson to motor up and down the right wing. So we'll look further forward. I think maybe we might see that, but that is for further down the line. Before we finish, James, I want to get your take on two things. So firstly, the contract extension to Steven Naismith. Maybe not the best time to speak about it. Unfortunately, Scott and I's times didn't match up on Friday, so we couldn't do a video about it and look ahead to the Dundee game. But even with this result of the weekend, common sense prevails, with Hearts taking up the contract extension of Naismith, Gordon Forrest, Frankie McAvoy and Paul Gallagher.
Yeah, no, I think that it makes a lot of sense. Again, I think from Hearts' perspective, it probably protects them a wee bit better, because, you know, Naismith had an excellent first season as manager. Yeah. It sounds stupid. It's not this isn't the best time to be talking about it, because he's just been beat, but he's obviously a talented young Scottish coach. Again, I've said it before, I think he's one of the most talented young managers in the country. The Hearts probably overachieved last season in terms of expectation. In terms of, I think he probably did outperformed expectation, I should say, by the manner in which Hearts cantered to third. Yes, it wasn't perfect. Yes, there's things that still need to be going on. They need to get better, but it seems to be a deal that makes sense for all parties. You know, the coaching staff, what they're doing Saturday aside, is working. You know, the team do seem to be getting better. I think the recruitment's been really good. And as I said before, I think Naismith's a really astute tactician. I think his in-game tactical decisions are really good, generally speaking. So yeah, no, I think it makes sense for everyone. It definitely makes sense for Hearts, and I think it's just encouraging that Naismith definitely sees his long-term future here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Can't add much more to it than that. And then in less positive news, Kyosuke Tagawa. What's your thoughts on the Japanese striker here for a short time? Was it a good time? There was good moments.
Yeah, there were a few nice moments. Yeah. But, you know, there were a few not so nice moments as well. Yeah, I mean, I like Tagawa. It was hard not to root for him.
Yeah.
I think that in some sense he was a casualty of the system that Hearts like to play, or actually maybe a casualty of the system that opposition teams like to play, because everyone's playing such a deep back line. He doesn't really get the most out of a player like him with his talents. Yeah, at the same time, was it 3 goals last season? 3 goals in a season. You know, they were basically an entire season apart as well. Not, you know, and there were lots of games where he didn't come on. So I think that it makes sense. You know, I'd have liked to see him stick around. You know, again, I can't help but root for him, but I can understand why the management team have went, actually, okay, we can maybe let him go and get somebody else. So obviously, I would think someone like Misaj Rama is probably a potential player who could fill that role, maybe. Other than that, I would think that Hearts maybe have to go back into the market. I mean, is Liam Boyce a striker now?
That was my follow-up question. When I'm glad you've answered it, because I was going to say that at the moment you've got Vargas, Shankland, Boyce, Musa Drama, and James Wilson. Naismith has suggested that he's happy with those options. Whether it changes in the next 3 weeks, we'll find out. But certainly noises is that they don't have immediate rush to replace. I think, like you, I think a lot of Hearts fans would like to see another forward come in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those ones where if the right player became available in the next few weeks, then yeah, absolutely go for it. But if I wouldn't just be bringing somebody in just for the sake of bringing someone in. I think the options I think you could certainly get by till January and then maybe have another look at it then. But it depends on things like whether Vargas could play. Say, could Vargas play alone if Shankland for whatever reason was injured or suspended? Could Vargas lead the line by himself? Boyce, is he a number 10? Is he a striker? Could he do both?
Yeah,
I'm not sure anymore. Again, you miss it. Don't know. Not seen enough of him. James Wilson, absolutely a talented young player, but he's 16, 17.
Yeah, I think just 17 now. So
he's not going to. Yeah, it's okay to get him off the bench and maybe start the odd game here and there, maybe, but he's not going to be playing regularly. So I guess as usual, my worry is what happens if Shankland gets injured. So again, I think if the right player became available, then yeah, I think the Hearts will probably jump at that. But I think it's one of those ones where it's not as if they absolutely need somebody just to come in, just in case. I think they could potentially get through to January or maybe even the end of the season with the options they've got. But maybe another one wouldn't go amiss.
Yeah, so they've got Tom Irving on the case of just he's going to do a piece for the site looking at potential options to come in as a Tagawa replacement. But I think it's a good point in that you don't bring someone for the sake of it. Again, you don't want to just bring someone in who's going to essentially fill a jersey, and then that just prevents James Wilson from getting minutes.
Exactly,
helping his progress.
Exactly, that's it. If it's like you just need someone who can play striker. So I'll give the young guy a chance then. If it's just going to be for a couple of games or the last 20 minutes or whatever it might be, fine. But yes, I'd be surprised if Naismith doesn't strike me as that type of manager anyway. But I guess we'll see. We did see. I'm thinking back of like Scott Fraser last season where that signing did seem a little bit like that. It was just like we just need someone else who can just another body in midfield, and they didn't really play much at all. So yeah, we shall see. We shall see.
Yep, we will, and we will finish there. Just want to read this comment from Michael Evans on Facebook. I actually thought before the season started, Dundee and Spittle would both play with play as two number 10, Shanks up top, and everything else could be shuffled in behind. That's certainly what Spittle did at Motherwell with Theo Bair in front of him. I think it was him, Theo Bair. I can't remember who the other number 10 was. My only concern, and he's followed up with 3-4-2-1. My only concern is that front three is quite slow. So yeah. I think it could work certainly at home in home games where you've got to dominate the ball and your wing backs are pushed up. But yeah, that's certainly a suggestion. But we will finish there. Before I do, I should raise or bring up the offer we currently have on this week at Hearts Standard, where you can subscribe for 12 months for £12. So I believe, if my maths is correct, that's £1 a month for the year. You can do that by, I put it in the YouTube description, and you can see it flashing across there, www.heartstandard.co.uk/subscribe. I've put a piece on the site as to what you can expect if you do, everything from tactical analysis to exclusive interviews, in-depth features, and all the latest news. So if you haven't subscribed, certainly do think about it. If you have subscribed, then please do tell friends and family who you think could be interested. But until later in the week, where I'll hopefully be joined by potentially Scott McIntosh, who I'll hopefully text to give him enough time to be ready for it. We will be back. Until then, thank you very much and have a good week.
Bye.